Collective, hello, hello, my loves. Welcome to Vivid Vibration. My hat looks crooked. My hair said, Revolt. My name is Christina. I hope that y'all are doing well. Collective, today we got court the subconscious. Okay. Your subconscious holds great wisdom and power. Those channels of the psyche deserve your exploration. Seek out your own depths, where spirit companions live and the mighty magic can take you upon its back for a ride. Plunge. The subconscious holds secrets our thoughts alone can never reach. Let go of the solid world of beliefs and enter the watery depths of the psyche. Seek out your own beliefs, fears, hopes, and possibilities. Go find out what's beneath them. Don't stop there. Uncover. Uncover again. Your life is run by 10% conscious programming and 90% unconscious programming. Go find what lives in the unconscious and swim with it. Make it your friend. Let it carry you on a magical ride of strength and empowerment. Y'all, I do embody a number of gifts that I've had since childhood. Telepathy is one of them. I have gotten a lot better at closing channels that I don't want. But that being said, when I engage in a collective energy, it tends to open me up to a lot of times new channels. I think that one of the most important things we can do when working with spirit is practice grounding, practicing presence, all very simple concepts, but I think ones that keep us from getting caught in the in-between. Because those of us who do have those gifts are aware that those gifts can go deep, they can go far. Sometimes they can be frightening. Usually they always end up being with a purpose of revelation, right? Spirit reveals things. I know for myself personally, and again, I know that I'm not alone in this. There were times in our lives where we did our best to push them down, push them away. I think for a lot of us, again, myself included, there's an issue with, what the spiritual communities embody, the trends of spirituality that exist. I think for those of us who have struggled with the reality of engaged relationship with spirit, we find it to be rather infuriating, honestly. And that's an emotion that we feel, and we're allowed to feel our feels. But I think that also we know that, the world will give us direction straight into its hell, its created hell. And so it is when we allow for spirit to speak to us, to reveal things to us, that we experience, that next level of growth. It is always my goal to touch on the heart of anything, and it's never my goal to, take offense to or antagonize those who are going through the journey, those who have come into this world on that journey. I'll antagonize the fuck out of some motherfuckers for sure, but not not when what we seek is healing, not when what we seek is an understanding of what that healing entails, to the wounds that we hold, you know. So I guess what I was going to say is telepathy is a part of that. And so, yeah, you know, you will hear me say things back to you that you're saying, because when you tap into my telepathy, I tap into your soul. But that is the blessing of spirit's awareness. And yeah, I mean, I think that it does scare people who have, well, I don't know, I think of sometimes, if you think of like the way that a soul can present itself, right? Something very ethereal about it, you know, obviously. But like a tattered soul, kind of like ripped up pantyhose, you know what I mean? Those souls can't handle the healing that we seek when we approach healing with a sense of who we are. Who we are in connection with our sacred self, who we are in connection with spirit, you know, and the many variations that we experience that in our lives. So I guess that's what we're talking about today. Hope everyone's doing well, having a lovely day today. Sorry. These cards are harder to shuffle because it's a new deck. Death, the Six of Swords, and the Knight of Swords. The Knight of Swords, yeah, we have gotten that a number of times. It's a pretty sick card, though. It's like it riding on the angel, or the angel riding on the stallion. But the idea behind the card is being singular, like singularly minded, like a sense of ambition. But sometimes that ambition can be without consideration of others. I think one of my, you know, obviously my favorite topics of conversation is, you know, like the polar opposites that we experience in life. Again, because I think rhetoric is one of the biggest tools, like weapons of war. And so I think it's important that we break it down and conceptually, because we are at a state in time where that is just like, we need that. So a couple of days ago in one of the reads, we were talking about the idea of, you know, like stepping on people when we practice self-love, right? To thine own self be true. And what does that mean in the different forms of rhetoric that it presents itself in? I think that that's relevant with the Knight of Swords card, because it is that idea of like, what does it mean to be trampling over others if I'm practicing self-love? How do I wrestle with that dichotomy, right? Because people want to push shame, they want to push boundaries, they want to push the conversation, you know what I mean? Like they want to push. Because if they push enough, hard enough, long enough, eventually you'll break, right? I mean, fucking kids do that. You know what I mean? I do think that it is just like a natural, like anybody who has that drive, will push. But there is that question of intention that we always have to come back to. What am I pushing for, and why am I pushing for it? And is my pushing for something damaging to other people, or are they damaging to themselves and they're just trying to use me as a scapegoat for it? Right? Because again, we have to constantly question everything, because people, it's like reading the terms and agreements. You know what I mean? Like, nobody reads that shit. You just check the box and go, right? But what have we given away our rights to? ICE can track us on our phones now. They have access to all of the things that, who's the guy? Is it Snowden, who released the information that the government was collecting, like conversations and putting people on terrorist lists, and I mean, just for like keywords and like the chaos behind all of that. I know that that's like old news, but it was pretty revolutionary at the time. And the fact that he was willing to bring an awareness to the people was huge, and naturally he paid the price for that. But now, fast forward a decade or so later, or two, I don't remember when that all went down, but now we have we are existing in a state of war. Like threats from our president that, no measure of violence is too violent, going into cities. You know what I mean? Like ICE having access to our phones and tracking everyone, a device that everyone's reliant on, even the government gives out phones, so it's just kind of like singularly focused, stampeding on people. Like we live in a world of just these like mass, what world is this, like dystopian world that we live in. And because we live in a world that is kind of like a mass sense of dystopia, in a lot of ways, we have to allow for parts of ourselves that once held resonance with those things to be released, to experience a death, because we can no longer carry the weight of the unconscious when we are called to court our subconscious, when we are called to sit in communion and understand, in all of this chaos, where is purpose? In all of these rally cries for all of these things, where do I stand in this clusterfucked chaos battle that, most of the world looks at and says, well, as long as it's not in my backyard. Parting ways with a lot of those things, I think allowing ourselves the space to sincerely commune with spirit, sincerely connect with our gifts, release ourselves from, well, I don't know, it just feels like a stampede, feeling stampeded by the world. Yeah, I mean, okay, so I know those are very political examples, very extreme, but fucking, we need to talk about it. So I'm going to talk about it. But to not bring, to bring it down to a like a not so intense energy, like ways that the world stampedes us, like a kid getting bullied at school, and knowing that when they go in, they're just going to be humiliated by their their classmates. And I mean, I just like, there are so many instances in life that any given person can face, because the conscious world is a gigantic sociopathic shit show. you know like and it's a shit show of salesmen, honestly. Whether you're in the financial community, the farming community, the spiritual community, I mean, it's like it's everywhere. I mean, what was that one document on Netflix that was talking about like the oceans being polluted, and the number one pollutant of the oceans was actually the fishing industry. And like the damage that's been done and all the damage that's done, and we're being sold on the idea of straws. Now, yes, do straws impact the environment? Of course. Are they the reason that the environment is being destroyed? No. Is there a transition of responsibility that isn't appropriate to its keepers? Absolutely. But again, that is the way the world operates. But yeah, I mean, like, well, in the documentary, they were talking about like a lot of these fundraising companies, like Save a Whale, or any of these ones that we see all these commercials for, and donate to this or whatever. They weren't doing anything to it was like a shell facade of it's just money on 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 money, taking, giving nothing back. Like, that is the world that we live in. So yeah, well, I guess I feel like saying, part of the concept of discernment, is recognizing, like, what is the motivation, what is the impact. I feel like there's like a sense of accountability here. Um, yeah, I don't know, because I mean, honestly, the Six of Swords is separation, right? I think the going theme has been new directions. The going theme has been going out of, like, getting away from these communities, however they exhibit themselves to us as individuals, because they take. They take and 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 they take. um, with no concept of the time, you know. I mean, like the rainforest, it's like loggers coming in and just cutting down millions of acres of trees. You can't just regrow a forest. You know what I mean? You can't just undo the ecological ramifications of destroying a forest, you know? However that resonates for you. Definitely turning away, definitely going in new directions, though. I mean, again, we have Justice and the Ace of Pentacles. Justice in leaving one thing behind, a new beginning. Justice in going in a new beginning. Knight of Wands, Strength, Queen of Swords, and the Emperor. I mean, Queen of Swords is no bullshit, right? Just fucking call it what it is. Address it properly. Educate people accordingly. You know what I mean? Like, fucking let's deal with some shit here, you know? But again, to go back to that subconscious, connecting with self, connecting with spirit, disconnecting from worlds that seek to pull us out of balance, that seek to take from us, that seek to shove us in communities that we don't want to be in because of all of the reasons, you know. Oh, trust. Yes. But again, I just think that when we are aligned, when we are in the frequency that we have worked to be in, when we have done the work necessary to practice the discernment that we need to practice, when we have sorted through the many barrels of confusion placed at our doors, you know, we're able to really, well, I just feel like seize opportunity. He's wrestling a dragon. Yeah, well, I know it's not most people don't operate like that, but I definitely do. And I know people think I'm ridiculous for it, but I don't give a fuck. But I move on, like when spirit tells me to move. And spirit speaks to me in the many variations that it speaks to me. Yeah, and sometimes that's like an animal that shares a message with you. I mean, there are lots of people who communicate with animals. That's not uncommon. I guess it's kind of uncommon, but just for people who have no souls, because, well, I won't say that that's not like a direct correlation. You know what I mean? There are people who don't talk to animals who have soul, but they don't have that gift, I guess. But I don't know, because I know a lot of people who are able to communicate with their animals. I don't. But anyways, if it's something that, you know, one of your animals shares with you, if it's something that, you know, Mother Earth shares with you, you know, like the timing of the wind, the strength of the wind, the things that blow in, you know, like the winds speak, the skies speak, the storms speak, the thunder speaks. You know, if we are willing to listen to it, if we are attuned with spirit, if we are attuned with self, if we are attuned with nature, all of these things, you know, and that's not something to be sideshowed for people. It's not something for people to pretend. But spirit also communicates through itself to our family, our kindred, our yeah. A few years ago, I started this channel. I've had a few channels, but and one of the reads that I did was "Mirror, mirror on the wall, expose my demons, one and all." And it took me on a journey of a grand exposure of a number of demons. And it was an experience. But when we face those things, like when we return to the mirror, we are no longer facing our demons. We're standing with our spirits. We're standing with our ancestors. They come to us. They speak to us. And what a blessing, What a beautiful sense of connection to share in with others. Fairy Stallion again. We keep getting that card. Movement. Yeah, Five of Wands, separation, Ace of Pentacles again. That's fun. I love the Ace of Pentacles in this deck because it's just kind of like sometimes a new beginning can present itself as like some small little thing. But we should never bat an eye at something being small or insignificant, because oftentimes it is in those small and insignificant moments that we witness massive change occur from, and again, to go back to the idea of really practicing discernment, really working with spirit, separating ourselves from the ones who have no comprehension of what that means, and calling into us, the Four of Pentacles. This card is, the idea of like creating home, creating security. It is also the idea of, like be careful that you don't trap yourself in a state of just being comfortable. But with the Strength, not once but twice, I don't get the feeling that that's really the energy behind that. Because I think that, again, that sense of strength and alignment, new opportunities, and courting your subconscious. Well, yes. I mean, in terms of speaking on gifts, honestly, I haven't even shared every gift that I have with others, and I don't discuss what those entail personally, because I feel as though it's nobody's business. If I'm not sharing in that magic with you, as an individual, then I'm not sharing it with you. Nanya. You know what I mean? And yet, if I don't acknowledge that it's something that I do, I will never be able to connect with the people who are able to do that with me. Yeah. Well, and that goes to discernment too, right? Because yeah, there are dark practitioners, there are soulless people playing with demons, there are ego-driven spiritual communities, there are human hating billionaires, there are there are all of these things in the world. But I guess, in terms of connecting with who you connect with, for anybody who has a relationship with spirit, I think it is imperative to us that we connect with people who comprehend what that means, because it means a whole lot more than people realize. It carries a lot more strength and a lot more power than I think people realize. That's why you have meddlesome people. That's why you practice discernment. It's why you connect with spirit, because spirit will tell you, don't do that. Don't fuck with that person. Don't take that road. Don't, like, if you lost your keys and you're running late, you trust that it's because you were being protected. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I know people say it's superstitious, but again, comprehension. Seven of Swords, Five of Swords, leaving things behind. Eight of Cups, leaving things behind. All of these choices, none that we want to make. Knight of Wands, Knight of Swords, Eight of Wands, the Fool. Whatever this opportunity is, it does kind of feel out of the blue. And somehow small. But I don't think that's a bad thing. Well, yeah, I mean, in terms of spirit, yeah, I mean, I think that spirit does communicate, oftentimes in terms of, is this right? Well, I mean, it's kind of like, I don't do dating apps. I don't. No, thank you. But dating is so uncomfortable to me. I think for me personally, because I'm obviously a very, I work with spirit. I have my own practice. I have my own journey. I have a crazy ass fucking story that just somehow seems to like unravel into something crazier and crazier. But like the more connected I am with spirit, the less connected I feel oftentimes to people. And so I always try to practice presence in life, because I don't want to be caught in the in-between. But, like, would you sit down over dinner and have a conversation like that? I don't think so. But also, like, I very much just, like, am who I am. I don't know. I've I'm not going to change who I am for somebody else. Well, I won't say I always have been that way. I mean, certainly I was that way when I was younger, but I'm not anymore. So, I don't know. I guess somebody wanted to know. There you go. There's your answer. Eight of Clovers, Seven of Hearts. The snake indicates enmity and Jesus Christ, and calamities, the degree of which is governed by the distance of the card from the person. The stork denotes change of residence for the better sooner or later, according to the distance which it lies from the person. Well, I mean, yeah, separating from some communities, entering into other communities. Um, some people could be moving. I mean, both the Chariot and the Seven of Hearts and the Four of Wands. You could be leaving a job and where'd it go? Getting, like leaving one job, um, being offered a new job, being offered a new opportunity. Maybe that opportunity somehow connects you in ways that yeah, I mean, I have no idea how it will resonate for you, but I just, to me, I always say trust in spirit. Spirit told you so, fucking listen. You know, like there have been people who I've known along the way or who I've encountered along the way where it's like, I know spirit told you and you just didn't listen. Which to me, immediately, if you're the type of person who has an active communication with spirit and you are like, you don't listen when spirit tells you to listen, and yes, when spirit tells us to do shit, I feel like so often it's one of those things where you're like, are you serious about that right now? All right, I don't want to, but whatever, you know what I mean? I'm going to listen because when I don't, shit gets fucked, right? Um, but yeah, do you get that? Comprehension. You guys. Okay, I'm trying to get one last card. Cherish the small things. We got that the other day. But yeah, spirit does. Spirit does. Spirit speaks in small ways. Spirit doesn't always yell. I mean, sometimes spirit yells. But in our daily lives and our daily experiences in the small things, spirit presents itself. Spirit makes itself known. If we are in alignment with spirit, if we are walking with spirit, if we are in communion with spirit, spirit will never abandon us. Spirit will stand in the way of us abandoning ourselves. And in all actuality, when you want to break discernment down, past just the fundamental logistics of human existence, we are on a spiritual journey. We exist with spirit. And it's important that we honor that in all things, even the little things. I love that. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here, for spending some time with me. If this does resonate with you, please do give me a like, share, and subscribe. And I will see y'all again soon. Bye.